Mine's is sort of twofold. I think you're going to see the secondary market continue to bleed and take a hit, particularly on Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rolex prices are going to continue to fall greatly.
And why so?
And so I'm glad you asked that. I think, A, people are tired of not being able to get what they want.
Yes.
B, those who have had a good year, had a really good year and got everything that they want,
Yes.
and there's nothing left for them to get. I think as a result, in terms of influence, I think you're going to see way more celebrities this year starting to wear either more independent brands.
Mm-hmm.
And by independent, I know there are a number of brands that are very popular that are independent, but I mean like sort of like the rise of the independent brand, like the brands that are not so known.
Yes.
But also, I think you'll start to see some of the guys who, have dibbled and dabbled in Rolex over the last few years start to really get interested in watches and move towards more, elite brands.
Mm-hmm.
Brands like Patek, brands like FP Journe,
Mm-hmm.
and continue to move up from there, maybe even to an MB&F and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying before regarding the biggest surprises, Rolex's acquisition. I think as a result of this year
Mm-hmm.
and continue to see the secondary market prices bottoming out, Rolex will you'll start to hear murmurings more publicly about them moving forward with the idea of opening their own boutiques. Because I see the only way to actually control that secondary market price, which, in 2023 and 2022, they potentially claimed that, we don't care about aftermarket prices. You're going to be in a position in 2024 where you're going to have to.
Yes.
I think they already set themselves up for that with the launch of CPO.
I think you're right,
But I think it's
but
just
I
gonna have
think
the
you're going to
adverse
start to
effect.
see it's going to be a little more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it's going to be harder for authorized dealers to move watches.
Mm-hmm.
We've already seen that there are more and more watches that were in demand a year ago hitting the cases, and they're able to be purchased on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Something no one has experienced for a while.
Yes.
So 2024, I think is going to be interesting. So that's my prediction. That's what I got.
I'm gonna piggyback on some of the stuff you said, but I think with the secondary market, especially Rolex, I think the opposite is gonna happen. I think
You think it's going to go back up?
yeah.
Mm.
I think we're at the part of this cycle. I mean, trends, especially market trends, are definitely cyclical. I think 2024 is going to be the year where they start to creep up slowly.
I think the only way that happens is if there's another crypto bull run like everyone is talking about.
I mean, election year, I think stuff's going to happen in the economy. You might get more pump in the economy, and I think CPO is actually going to drive
how
the
about
secondary
this?
market.
What about a scenario? Because I also consider this. If all that happens,
Mhm.
let's say there's a crazy crypto bull run.
Mhm.
I think Bitcoin's at like 40,000 and
Yeah.
change now, right?
Yeah.
So it's come up like $8,000 to $10,000 in the last few months. Some people saying it's going to hit 100K this year, 2024.
Mm.
Believe when I see it. But let's say it did. I think you will see that spike, but I think it's going to be incredibly violent.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is I think it's going to spike all the way up and then come crashing down.
Well, that's kind of what happened in the last 2 years.
I think it'll
no?
be faster.
Sure.
I'm talking about like get
like
in,
like a month.
get out.
Like within a month. Yeah.
Mm.
Like people like gonna
Yeah.
start making wild money, then
Yeah,
just stop.
I think it's going to be like.
I think something
what
similar
was the
would
thing?
happen
I
to-
think it's going to be like GameStop.
GameStop stop.
Yeah, it'll be like GameStop.
NFTs?
Diamond hands.
Yeah. So I think so. So just talking about Rolex specifically, I think what would happen is, and I can see it happening now, just because we had this conversation in the bungalow like 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was looking at buying. It was Jazz actually. He was looking at buying a Coke GMT.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm really finding them online, like between 11 to, at the very top, 13. And they're on CPO between 15 to 17.
Crazy.
If I know what I'm doing, why would I buy a CPO watch? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if I could save $5K, that's another watch.
Absolutely.
Why would I get it from CPO?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Rolex CPO is setting up the secondary market in terms of all these dealers, 47th Street, eBay, Eric Wynn, whoever you are. If you have this product and it's priced well, you're going to move it way faster than an authorized dealer with CPO will.
Yes.
Sure.
Just because, especially, people are going to start doing research, which is what happened and why this all boomed to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And that secondary market is going to spike again.
Yeah.
I think Cartier vintage secondary market is going to keep going up and
So
up.
now,
and up.
so this is a different conversation. So because when I talk vintage, I don't really look at vintage as like secondary market.
Well, I was going to hit on,
But
especially with Cartier. As
I
like
do
auction
believe,
prices.
to your point, I think vintage is going to see, vintage is already rising again.
Yeah.
You're starting to see it kind of bubble up
Vintage
slowly.
has never ever gone down. The trend is
No, it's
definitely
actually- it's always
changed.
only
It's
gone up.
always
Yes,
been consistent
yes.
or gone up.
It
Yes.
is.
Like I remember, like what? Let's say 2017, 2018, people were going ape shit over bubble back Rolexes.
Yeah.
And like, who's buying that anymore? Nobody. But if you bought one at the quote unquote peak of a bubble back Rolex, you probably bought one for like $3,500.
Sure.
You getting $3,500 out of it still.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you bought like, let's say this GMT, you paid 13 grand for it. You making money on this right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Especially when you have an insert like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think that's ever going to change. Now, CPO is actually just going to increase that. I think it's going to happen faster. To your point.
I think vintage, you'll start to see vintage kind of bubble a lot
Yeah,
more
like
quickly
but like real
in
fast.
2024.
I think what's going to
Yeah.
happen to vintage is what happened the last 3 years with just modern pre-owned Rolex.
Yeah, I can
Mm.
see that.
How that secondary market just boomed. That's
It'll
what's going to happen
spike.
with vintage. It's going to
Mhm.
spike. And the
Mhm.
thing is, like we said, it's not going to come down.
No.
It's going to spike and then valley
Mhm.
and then peak again and then valley. And it's going to do that consistently for as long as people want to buy watches.
I would agree with that.
And when
Mm.
it comes to auction prices, I think Cartier is eventually going to. I mean, they're getting up there. There's been some pretty.
Well, as more people
abstract
become
things.
educated,
Yeah, and Cartier seems to be like everyone's vintage starter watch now.
Yeah.
that's very interesting. That is in a way.
Yeah, you can
Um,
blame Mike Noble for that.
shout out to Mike.